400 Legend has been an active project we've been working on for probably almost 2 years now, ever since the Winchester launched it as a production product. Unfortunately, we were not able to get brass for a long time. We couldn't find a source for the brass. So we did, over a year ago, start making bullets for reloaders, and the reloaders were having excellent results with that, with the bullet that we were producing, which is a 165 grain bullet you can see here. Well, back in January of this year, I by chance met Derek Peterson, who owns Peterson Ammunition, and we started talking, and I asked him if there was a possibility he could make the 400 Legend cartridge case. And after some thought and a few discussions, he said, yes, we could actually do that. Here we are 9 months later, and there's a reloader running in the background right now that is producing 400 Legend ammunition for us based on the Peterson cartridge case. Peterson, if no one knows who they are in our market per se, they make high-end reloadable cartridge cases for most of the shooting industry. They've been doing a lot with the PRS shooters, a lot with commercial, or the hand loaders. This is we're probably one of the first commercial loaders to actually pick them up as a cartridge case manufacturer for us. And the quality of the product that they're making is above anything we've ever seen. When you look at the cartridge cases, you can see the very controlled neck anneal portion on the top of the case. It's very, very consistent from case to case to case. There's over 50,000 pieces sitting in my shop right now, and they all look exactly the same, and they all measure exactly the same. And the results are in the quality of this product. When we're doing testing, I use this bench gun to do a lot of my testing, and I also test with this Ruger Gen 2, and I test with the Savage 110. And all three guns, the commercial OEM guns are shooting under half MOA. The bench gun is shooting under quarter MOA. It's remarkable how accurate these guns are, and a lot of it is attributable to the quality of the bullet we're putting in that really good cartridge case. I shot 5 does over the course of the firearm season last year. I think maybe 2 ran at the most. But the thing that was so amazing about the round, and these shots were anywhere from 50 yards to 200 yards, is if they quite often would go down at the shot right there, and it was just game over. But if they did run, the recoil was so much less than the 450, I could see what direction the doe went, and I could watch her tumble, and I knew exactly where she was, and it was easy recovery. I didn't have the heavy recoil that you deal with a 450. But when we did process the deer, we were seeing damage to the animals, the carcasses, every bit as extreme as the 450. So the long story short, the 400 is basically hits like the 450, but with 25% less recoil, making the guns much more manageable in a lighter platform. So people that are more sensitive to recoil don't have the heavy recoil like you do with the 450, so it's easy for them to control the guns. Smaller kids, women, it's just a better fit all the way around. And I think the blood trails people are going to find are significantly better than what they get with either the 450 with the OEM ammo, and then definitely better than what you'll typically see with the 350 with the OEM ammo. So the ballistics for this load, we've got 2 loads we're going to do. One's going to be loaded with this AR style bullet or rounded tip bullet, and then the other is going to be the HV bullet. The HV bullet's loaded a little bit hotter, closer to say 26, 25. It depends on the gun. If it's a Savage, it's going to be on the low 2600s. If it's a Ruger, it's going to be close to 2600. The different barrel geometry has an impact on how the velocity improves. Both guns shoot extremely well. The 50 feet per second difference is not going to have any impact on the way that bullet performs on the deer. Both bullets will open up down to 1200 feet per second. The standard length ammo, which would be to the SAMI spec, so if somebody wants to run this in an AR magazine or an AR rifle, or like the Rugers come with an AR mag system, they're limited to 2 1/4 inch length. This ammo will run at about 2600 in a say a 20-inch AR. The Savage will run it closer to probably 2650. So there's about a 50 feet per second difference depending on which platform you're shooting. we tried to make sure we're at least over 2,600 with all the different rifles we've tested so far. So when you start comparing our 400 Legend 165 grain cartridge to some of the common OEM ammunition that exists on the market, you know, some of the high points, 24 inches of less drop than the 450 Bushmaster at 350 yards, comparing an OEM round to our HV round. The 400 has 24% less recoil than the 450, which is a big deal, obviously, especially those people that don't like the recoil. As far as killing power, when you look at the kinetic energy, this ammunition has more kinetic energy at 350 yards than a 10 millimeter with a 180 grain bullet does at the muzzle. And everybody knows the 10 millimeter is more than capable of carrying whitetails out to 50 to 70 yards without any problem. Sighted in 2 inches high at 100 yards, you're going to be 2 inches low at 215 yards. And that, to me, is a huge benefit to anybody that's just wants to set their rifle up. They don't want to have to make a lot of changes with the turret or dial or shooting over or anything. And it fits the bill for most of the Midwest, where guys are shooting 200 yards and in. All you have to do is put the crosshairs on the shoulder or right in back of the shoulder, pull the trigger, and whether it's right off the end of the muzzle or it's 200 yards out, you're going to drop that deer. Penetration, we've had excellent penetration with these all copper rounds. At 100 yards, that bullet's penetrating through 24 inches of ballistics gel. And the frontal area is significantly heavier. It's comparable to not quite as big as the 450, but it's more, probably 30% larger than what you'll see with the 350. And that makes a huge difference when it comes to blood trails, because you don't have to worry about that hole plugging from fat on a heavy deer or something like that. The bullet punches right through both sides. I shot a doe during an early doe season at about 60 yards, and it was, the blood trail was incredible for the 10 yards that she went before she toppled over. So she was bleeding almost immediately as soon as I hit her. So in conclusion, the 400 Legend, we feel this 165 grain bullet, for the vast majority of the hunters that we're building ammunition for, is going to work extremely well for the guys that want to go as far as 400 yards. That was kind of the goal of this project for this year, is get an optimized load that will work extremely well, shoot reasonably flat, out to 400 yards if you need it, supersonic to 400 yards. And that's kind of the cutoff point where our bullet's going to work consistently each time. Going forward, we're going to work on a heavier bullet for the guys that want to reach farther, but it's going to be probably a little bit slower than what this 165 is, but it will have a little bit better BC, a little bit more efficiency to be able to stay supersonic out to 500 yards. But as far as the majority of the hunters, even myself, most of the time I'm going to be shooting the 165. I will probably test the heavier bullet just to make sure it's going to work the way we want it to, and some late doe hunts. Hopefully we can get those on videos so everybody can see what they do. But at this point, the 165 we think is the most efficient bullet for this application.